Everybody, red flags may not feel like red flags. Sometimes they may feel like green flags and six flags. Or maybe you kept dealing with somebody who kept ghosting you, who kept abandoning you because you have abandonment issues. So you're used to that unstable environment because you grew up in an unstable environment. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am B Taylor for those who don't know me or my new subscribers. Hello and welcome. I was on break for a little bit, but now I am back. My channel consists of mental health talk, dating, spiritual health, mental health, and just you know, surviving life, leveling up. And so thank you guys for watching. I see all you guys comments and everything, but I've just been, you know, on maternity leave, and then I also have a job outside of YouTube, which I can proudly say that I got a promotion at my job. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Some of you guys don't know that I do work in the news business, so I am in media already. But I do want to talk about some things and some ideas that I already have. So thank you guys for my new subscribers. I see all you guys comments, and then some of you guys follow me on Instagram, and I have replied back and talked to some of you guys, which kind of motivated me, you know, to talk about these things that I am going to get into. First, I would like to say I have created a Patreon. I've created a Patreon account. Can't even talk. Created a Patreon account for my moms, because I feel like that needs to be a more protected space. What I found in the past, that YouTube can be very toxic, social media can be very toxic, and it's full of very cruel people who like to come and you know, attack you spiritually, because they're spiritually battling with themselves. A lot of people who come on with not so good intentions, where my whole goal for my YouTube is to create a safe space for people to come and heal and relate, and we just talk about our mistakes and learn from them and grow and level up and get better with ourselves and get to know ourselves and heal. So I need to create more of a safe space, especially for my moms, because you know, while you're carrying a baby or while you're mothering, it's already hard enough, and you don't need to see those negative comments and all the time. So there's certain things that I do want to talk about on my YouTube channel that I just don't want to put for everybody to see. Therefore, I am creating a Patreon account where you guys can sign up and join. It's $5 a month. I mean, that's just like a hamburger for some of you guys. So I feel like that's something that's affordable as well. And I'm going to be making content and video where it's just a more sacred space for us to have discussions and to talk about things, and just more personal things where we could share our stories in that space. And it's not like, you know, where people who are not in sync to what we're going through or our experience are adding their commentary, because sometimes it's just not needed. It's just not needed. So for those who are interested into my Patreon account, I will be linking that below in this video. But okay, this is one of the things that I did want to talk about. I saw it trending on social media where everybody was like, red flag, red flag, red flag, green flag, green flag, green flag, purple flag, whatever. Now look, this is something that I want to say to everybody that is watching this video. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has red flags. Let me explain. Everyone has red flags, because someone's red flag may be someone else's green flag. Someone's red flag may be a red flag to others who experience certain traumas. And I just feel like, I don't know about you guys, but we're not perfect. I make mistakes. I even have red flags. I have red flags. And my red flags, I didn't know my red flags until I got into a relationship. The thing about it is, everyone has some healing to do. Everyone has some sort of trauma. It may not even be your parents. It may be trauma with friendship, trauma with your past relationships, trust issues, like, you know, there's just certain things that you can have red flags about, and you have a red flag. But the thing about red flags is, are you willing to address those red flags, understand them when you are called out on them? Do you take it as an attack, or do you take it as someone who is helping you address those issues? So for me, I'll just go ahead and say my tea on one of my red flags. One of my red flags that I found out is that I am not that affectionate. I'm not that affectionate as I thought I was. My love language is very different from my partner's, and I thought that, you know, I was affectionate, and Lord behold, I was not. And that had added to a lot of problems. Even in my past relationships, it added into problems, and even with my friendships. And I didn't realize it until I had a family member call me out on it and be like, hey, you're not an affectionate person. And I was like, what? I am very affectionate. Just kind of told me some things where I just wasn't as affectionate. And then the thing is that I expect it. I expect affection. I expect people to do things for me, but sometimes I would not reciprocate that back, because maybe I just had this sense of entitlement, of unawareness, you know, and I didn't know about it. And I didn't know that this was a problem until I looked in every aspect of my life, with my friendships, with my relationships with my family, relationships, my intimate relationship. And then I realized that this was like an ongoing thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I have red flags. Like, and I joke about them to my friends. Like, I'll see a meme that like jokes about someone toxic, and I would be like, this me. Like, you know, and everybody has seen those memes where they were once upon a time toxic. Everyone's toxic in their own way. Everyone has these issues in their own way. But the problem is that everyone is pointing the finger at everyone, and nobody is addressing themselves and their toxic ways. Like, everyone is toxic. Everyone has something toxic about them. Your mother can be toxic. Your father can be toxic. You could be a great mom. That doesn't mean you're not a great mom, but you have some toxic ways about you. That doesn't mean that you can't change those ways about you. I think that we have had this like misconception, especially with social media. It's like, once a person is toxic, they're always toxic. That's who they are. And some people may be, but that's not the case all the time. Some people may be toxic, and it may take a certain life change for them to fix that. I think what makes them a toxic person and make it different from being like having a toxic trait is that they're willing to work on it. They're willing to fix it, you know? And that's one of the things that we have to understand, is everyone is toxic, and everyone has a toxic trait about them, and everyone has red flags, okay? And why is it that this, and now that we got that out of the way, now why is it that sometimes we don't recognize red flags, right? We don't recognize red flags. Why is that? Why, when we see a red flag, we continue pursuing it? We ignore it. Why do we not feel threatened by that red flag? You ever been in a relationship where like everyone around you is telling you that it's like not good for you? Everyone's saying like, hey, I don't really like him. I don't really like her. She's not good for you. These are red flags. I've seen the red flags. And what's crazy is it's always easy to point out someone else's red flag in their relationship than your own. I don't know how many times where like, I've done this in the past, where I can literally see someone not good for my friend, but when it came to my own ish, I could not see it. I was like, no, you don't understand, because it is true. Nobody knows your relationship like you know your relationship, you know? So you kind of take their advice at heed, because you're like, you know what? Hey, like, yeah, okay, yeah, that was a red flag, but you're not in this relationship, which is true. That person isn't in the relationship, so it's easier to judge on the outside looking in than when you're in it. You know, maybe when you're in the house, you don't notice that the house may be tilted, right? Like, say if the foundation of the home is slanted. So the home looks slanted, but when you're inside the home looks normal. It looks fine. You're used to it. But somebody that's on the outside, it's so much easier for them to go, that house ain't, that foundation not right in that house. I can see it all over, especially someone who experienced it before, you know? So it's easier to call out. Now, I'm going to get into why these red flags feel like home, and you don't even notice these red flags until it's too late. You're already in love. You're already deeply invested into this relationship, right? So I'll just use myself as an example. You know, I have, you know, unresolved trauma that I had to go through, and my love language was toxic because that's how I grew up, right? And so when well, that's how I grew up. That's how I went through some things to make me think that this is love. So when I was in a relationship before, I put up with a lot more things that I could have saw in the beginning, but they just didn't feel like the arguments and him disrespecting me and calling me out my name was something that, yes, it hurt me and I was very upset about it, but it didn't push me enough to leave, because I went through certain things growing up where I had negative affirmations thrown at me as a child, where I somewhat believed that I was not worthy enough to not have someone talk to me like that. Or I'm a people pleaser. Like, say if you're a people pleaser and you end up in a relationship with a guy who does nothing for you and you do everything for them, and everybody's like, hey, he stiffs you on certain things. He didn't get you a gift. He didn't do this. He didn't appreciate you. He just seems like he's taking advantage of you, and everyone else is saying it, but you didn't notice it. Why? Because it feels like home. Or maybe you kept dealing with somebody who kept ghosting you, who kept abandoning you because you have abandonment issues. So you're used to that unstable environment because you grew up in an unstable environment. So that feels like home to you, and it doesn't feel like something that you need to leave, but something that you feel like you need to fight for. That you feel like this is what you are worth because of it feeling like home. It feels familiar. If you grew up with a narcissistic parent, if you grew up with a narcissistic dad or a narcissistic mother, you're most likely going to end up crossing paths with a narcissist because that is home to you and that is what you put up with. And I remember my pastor ended up saying a long time ago, it's like, sometimes people will yell at you and fuss at you and say things to you when they're really talking about themselves, or they're talking to their mother, or they're talking to their father. Like, women, if you have father issues, like, and you get into it with your man and you say certain things to him, are you talking to him or are you talking to your father? Like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you leaving me? Why am I not worth it? Are you talking to him or are you talking to your father? And him leaving you, ghosting you, cheating on you, whatever, may feel like home. It doesn't feel good. Not saying that home feels good, but if you grew up in that environment where you're growing up hurt, you're growing up not having the greatest expectations and high expectations for yourself, then you're not going to apply that in your relationship. So, where do we go from here? How do we recognize these things and how do we get better at it, right? I can say first thing first is that I had to recognize it. And it's so much easier for people to tell you, like, oh, this is what you need to fix. But it's not for that person to tell you. It's for you to recognize it. Sometimes being called out does help. And it helps you do self-reflection. But without self-reflection, you're not going to be able to sit down and really reflect off of your relationships, off of how you treat yourself, off of how you view yourself, off of where this stems from. Because I get so many women who reach out to me and they'll tell me about a guy and I'm like, this guy sounds like shit. Like, he doesn't even sound like a good guy at all. Like, what does she even see in him? But it may not even be the guy. It may be the validation she feels like she needs to get from him. You know, because that's coming from another relationship that was unresolved in here. Or maybe it's even deeper. It goes down to childhood trauma, that they are trying to get validation from this person because of their own childhood trauma. So you really have to, you know, ask yourself when you recognize that, yes, this person has red flags, this person, but what are your red flags? What are your red flags? You know, is your red flag your attitude? Is your red flag your anger issues? Is your red flag, you know, constantly setting expectations for people that you don't even have for yourself? And what are you going to do about those red flags? What are you going to do about those red flags? How are you going to solve those issues? You need to write them down. I've been writing mine down. I've been meditating on like myself for like a good minute. Like, there's some things about myself where I'm like, hey, I need to make these changes or this is what's going to happen, you know. So I just want us as a society to just not get into the whole like, oh, red flag, because women, we have red flags too. We have red flags, and if we don't clean up our own yard, we can't criticize other people and ourselves. Like, especially us women, it's kind of like hard for us to be like, what, we're not perfect? Like, excuse me, we're not perfect? No, we're not perfect, and we have issues, and we bring those traumas into our next relationship. And I'll get more into, do you need to be fully healed before you jump into a relationship? That's another video that I'm gonna make in the future, and you'll hear my response on that soon. But I just want us to kind of address our own red flags, you know. And if you don't even know what your red flags are, ask the people that's around you. Ask your friends, ask your family that you trust to give you, you know, that's not hating on you, that's going to give you good critique about yourself. And then maybe even ask your current boyfriend or someone that you trust to, or a close friend, like I said, to tell you, what are your red flags? What are some things that I can do to make myself a better friend, a better sister, better brother, a better daughter? Like, what are some things that you, without having to, you know, fully submit yourself or like, you know, change yourself, but just recognize some things that you need to also work on for yourself that will help you out in the future when it comes down to relationships. Trust me, I slowing it down, because I had some reflection to do where I'm like, ooh, I did this in this relationship, this relationship, this relationship. Let me see, like, why? Yeah. So those are some things that I definitely wanted to address and talk about, and just how everybody, red flags may not feel like red flags. Sometimes they may feel like green flags and Six Flags. Yes, guys, I hope you kind of understand what I was saying in this video. It's been so long since I've been on camera, so I hope, bear with me, guys. If you want to start the conversation below, what are some red flags that you found out that you have? Comment some red flags about yourself, because it's so easy to, you know, say who has red flags, but what are your red flags? What are some things that you found out that you did in relationships? Nobody should be telling you about yourself when we all got things to work on, okay? Now, there are some aspects of red flags to look out for, but just try to understand that why some people may see these red flags and ignore them because it feels like home to them. And until they resolve that issue, they're not going to see it as a red flag. They're going to see it as Six Flags, unfortunately. And sometimes you need to go through the grooves to learn what that red flag is to you and what you're not going to put up with anymore, and what you're fed up with. But you have to be fed up with it, and you have to be tired enough to say, All right, not doing this again, not going down this roller coaster again. I'm not going through this theme park of this person again, because this looks familiar. But just know, if you are dating, ladies, and you run across a guy, they are going to have red flags. It's just how many red flags do he have, and do he recognize them when you address them, and does he try to fix them? Do they seem like something that you guys can work through and compromise on? Because like I said, there's so many unhealed people in this world right now, and we have to have a little bit of compassion. Not saying if this person's a narcissist, you need to run, baby. You just run. But I'm saying, if someone has certain red flags, like you go on a date and the guy does a certain thing, or he talks too much, maybe he's nervous, maybe, who knows? But just take it easy, ladies, because I'm seeing y'all go in. I'm seeing y'all go in. But then also, recognize if you're putting up with these red flags and why they don't feel like red flags to you. Where does that stem from? All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, I'm going to put some links down to my Patreon video. And also, I just wanted to say I got these lashes from my sister Akila. She has her own YouTube channel, so I'm gonna link down to her stuff as well, and where I got these lashes. Let me know if y'all like them. I kind of put them on kind of quickly because I wanted to get cute for y'all. Duh, I haven't been on camera in so long. I hope you guys like this new setting. Let me know if you guys like it. But yeah, I am back and I feel great to be back, and I can't wait to make more content and video. And if you like this video, let me know. Thumbs it up, and let's start the discussion below. What are your red flags? All right, guys, thanks. Bye.